Oh, test. Test.
Test.
Test.
Okay, so before the doors open, let's go through some house rules. Trisha will read these to you, but I just want to give them a little in case you have questions before we start. We will start after I introduce Trisha. We will start with opening segments, starting with Lizzie, and we will go down the line. You all have 2 minutes each, and then each candidate will have 90 seconds. Each ticket will have 90 seconds to answer the question, and then a 30-second rebuttal that she will facilitate. She has the form in which you all will answer. Timekeeping rules. Jess, wait. So, yellow sign when 15 seconds. Red sign when time has appeared. Anyone see that? Okay, good job. Questions only be asked by Trisha. And when there are 10 minutes remaining in the debate, Jess, the timekeeper, will hold up a blue sign to indicate it's time for closing statements. When you see the blue sign, prepare for closing statements, and those will have a limit of 2 minutes per ticket. Which questions do we have? Is everyone excited?
And if you want, you all can like turn on and off your mics. Just don't. I mean, remember if you turn them off, to turn them back on. I know it can get a little touchy. So.
Thank you. Question. Go.
I'm dehydrated. Yeah, but that means we're also going through for the second question for like the actual first question for the clip. We're going through. I feel like it'll probably like since they're starting with Lizzie for the opening statement. Yeah. That means we get to go last for the opening statement, which I think is like powerful. Yeah. Because that gives us the opportunity to be like, look,
That's the anchor. Yeah.
listen to us. Yeah. Remember what we.
Hi, I'm Lizzie. Nice to meet you.
I'm Jason. Nice to meet you.
Good luck tonight.
Thank
I'm
you very
excited
much.
about the candidates.
And it,
Thank
I'm
you.
Trisha.
Trisha.
no, me either.
It's my pleasure to meet you. Thank you.
Pleasure meeting you.
Like that, and then.
So when they start asking us questions, I'm assuming that this is my section, right? And we believe that it. Just in my head, I need to get out of it.
You got this. We got this.
Let's go. Lizzie.
Oh.
Kudos to you.
Good.
third name, Lizzie Hornung,
Yes.
Jason Marcus.
Correct. Thank you.
Oh. Just swallow.
Yeah. Oh, they are really starting to grow. Mm.
All right. That was good. Low turnout, huh? I didn't tell the Tridents to come.
Should have, baby.
Doesn't mean anything to me.
Just makes it loud.
I'm asking them to show out on Monday, Tuesday, so
Odd. As you should. Who am I supposed to look at?
preferably no one.
I'm gonna look up. Like up at the top. Like I
Yeah.
can fucking see. Apparently we don't shine as bright as everybody else.
We don't what?
Shine as bright as everybody else.
Oh yeah, we're in the dark. We're fully in the dark.
Really quickly. Um, I'm going to introduce her at the podium.
Sorry.
And then she is going to do some house rules, basically what I went over with, and address the audience. And then once she's going to say, now that we've gone over the house rules, let us begin opening statements, starting with Lizzie and Jason. She's going to say that, and then she's going to come and sit down, and once she's in her seat, you start.
Okay. Got it.
Sounds good. No, you're good. You're welcome.
Thanks.
Potatoes.
Okay. We got this.
Started off with a fucking bomb.
Yeah.
Yo, shoot. I'm sorry.
Where
Oh,
I am,
here
I
we
don't
go.
know. Look up and see that. He doesn't want to sit in front of the other ones.
I don't blame them.
Yeah.
They fucking trash talk.
Yeah.
And I'm talking like, I feel like I know that listeners are going to be cut fucking dead with the responses. We need to make sure that we are not trashing you. We need to
Yeah.
treat it
Yeah. Agreed.
lies and killies on our ground.
I don't know. Probably has to study for the MCAT.
Don't we all?
Yeah.
Me and they were twins.
And who?
Me and some watermelon.
You all are my troublemakers. Do you all have enough lighting? Do you feel like it's a little dark?
We do feel
feel like
what
it's
we were
dark?
told
We're not
by our
sweating.
friends. We're not sweating, but we were told it looks like we're in the dark. But it's up to you guys
I
and
was
what
also
you
told
want to
that
do.
by 15,000 people.
But on the other
Um,
hand, we're not sweating because we're not
I
on the
am
light. So
dripping.
But we would like to have a little light.
Let's see what we can do. Candy.
thank you.
Okay.
It will help the audience be completely dark, so that'll make you talk. If that helps.
Is this lighting going to change when we start?
No, it's preset.
This is a lot.
It's
I'm like,
preset. They said.
something-
I promise you, it doesn't look like it.
Are you guys okay? Sorry,
We're
I put it
fine.
there
do
and I
you
was
want a
like,
little bit lighter? We'll scoot you down. We'll do it old fashioned. Are you okay? What do you want?
Jason, it's up to you. I'm totally fine.
Hold on, let me go.
y'all are good. Honestly, might be a little bit better because it's not as hot.
Exactly.
But
Whatever
they
y'all
said it was
think.
like a preset, so they couldn't do anything about it. But they are gonna dim the audience completely. So if that makes me
I think it's fine. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Candy.
We all good? What do you want to do?
We're fine.
We're good.
Yep.
I told on the left shoulder. It's okay. So,
Thank you. Let's do it.
good evening. My name is Jacob Keaton, and I am currently serving as the current elections commissioner for Student Government Association. I am proud to be the first to welcome you here to the 2023 SGA presidential and vice presidential debate. Our hope for tonight is that you get a chance to meet the candidates running for office, hear firsthand the platforms of each of the candidates, and the vision that they have for student government and the vision they have for UK. Now, the fun part. For the first time in a long time, we have 4 presidential and vice presidential candidates. And they are presidential candidate Lizzie Hornung, vice presidential candidate Jason Marcus, presidential candidate Brooklyn Niravong, vice presidential candidate Patrick Haycraft. Presidential candidate Isaac Sutherland, and Vice Presidential candidate Mallory Hudson. And finally, our fourth presidential candidate, Hallie Rice, and Vice Presidential candidate, Vendela Norris. Now that you have met our candidates, I would like to welcome our moderator for this evening's debate, the Dean of Students for the University of Kentucky, Dr. Tricia Clement Montgomery. Thank you for being here. Take it away.
Thank you, Jacob. Thank you and welcome to all to the 2023 Vice President and President SGA debate. I am so excited to see all of you candidates up here and really excited to hear about many of your platforms and some of the answers to tonight's great questions. Before we go into the debate, I want to make sure that we go over a couple of house rules. So if you have any questions, let us know. The house rules will include, each ticket will be allowed to give an opening statement not exceeding 2 minutes. Each candidate will be given 90 seconds to answer each question. A timekeeper, our lovely timekeeper in the front, will be allowed 30 seconds for a rebuttal. Our timekeeper will be placed in the front row and will hold a yellow sign when candidates have 15 seconds remaining and a red sign when time has expired. Candidates will be allowed 30 seconds of rebuttal. Only one rebuttal per ticket shall be allowed per question. Timekeeping rules apply here as well. Our timekeeper will hold up a yellow sign when candidates have 15 seconds remaining and a red sign when time has expired. Order of responses will alternate. Questions will only be asked by the moderator. When there are 10 minutes remaining in the debate, the timekeeper will hold up a blue sign to indicate that it is time for closing statements. Each ticket will also be allowed to give a closing statement not exceeding 2 minutes. Okay? So now that we have gone through our house rules, let us begin with opening statements, starting with Lizzie and Jason. Would y'all like to begin?
Hi, y'all. My name is Lizzie Horning, and I am your candidate for Student Body President. I'm here tonight to present the many reasons why I'm driven and insistent on making consequential changes to serve your needs for success. I'm running for Student Body President because I have a distinct vision for pragmatic change. This vision has been developed by listening and engaging with so many of my peers and developing tangible changes to serve you more effectively. Our belief is for change that we know can happen and we know can change this university for the greater good. I'm so thankful to be here tonight to share my vision with you, and I'm grateful to have met so many of you through this campaign process.
And my name is Jason Marcus. Serving as Lizzie's right-hand man is not only my honor to support and promote a female president here at UK, but also change the status quo on who is in head leadership roles within this vast community we here call it UK. I believe in transparent politics, which means that if you cannot show your process and the things you're working on publicly, then there is no purpose for you to be sitting in the seat representing the student body as a whole, and especially the people who trusted you to vouch for them. I believe in accountability and liability. I believe in the freedom to choose and the freedom to decide how an individual goes about tackling their future endeavors here at UK. I also believe that it's time for this university to start giving its undivided attention to each and every single student that calls this institution its home. For some, this community here at UK is all they got, a safe haven. And I want to make sure it's a good one, that they not only love and cherish, but feel respected and in control of their environment and their surroundings. Thank you.
Thank you, Lizzie and Jason. Awesome. Okay, next we have Brooklyn and Patrick.
Hi, everyone. First of all, we would like to thank you all so much for being here and for your time. It really means a lot to us. The work that SGA does is important and has such a major impact in terms of how policy is shaped and how it ultimately impacts our campus community. And the best way to shape that policy is to hear from the student body and get the student body engaged in SGA and its work. All in all, we really appreciate you being here first and foremost. My name is Brooklyn Yeravong, and I am one of your candidates for student body president. I am a junior majoring in public policy and political science on the pre-law track, and am a member of the Honors College. I have been involved in SGA's executive branch for 3 years now in different positions, and I currently serve as the Assistant Director of Health and Wellness in SGA, where I work to take input from the student body on how to improve the overall quality and salience of our campus's health and wellness related resources, as well as creating resources to address disparities between resources.
Hi everyone, my name is Patrick Haycraft. I'm one of your candidates for Student Body Vice President. I'm a junior majoring in kinesiology and health promotion with a focus in exercise science on the pre-physical therapy track. I've been involved with SGA for 3 years now, specifically within the Senate. I first served as an undergraduate senator at large my freshman year and have currently served as the College of Education senator for the past 2 years. I'm also the Academic and Student Affairs Chair, a Senate executive position, where I do a lot of work in allocating grants and scholarships directly to the student body, as well as work in identifying student needs to communicate those both with SGA administration and university administration at large.
With introductions aside, we'd like to give a brief overview of our campaign pillars before the debate begins. With our combined 6 years of experience in SGA in both the executive and legislative branches, we found that the most crucial issues fall into 3 broad but certainly non-comprehensive pillars: student experience and well-being, improved representation within SGA across UK's campus, and unbridled authenticity in the work that we plan to do as your president and vice president. Thank you.
Thank you, Brooklyn and Patrick. That was good. All right, next we have Isaac and Mallory.
1 year ago, Isaac and I sat in these same seats, sharing our vision for a better UK SGA. Initially, we were heartbroken to not be chosen as your elected representatives. But it was after coming home to a host of support that we realized our work was not in vain. Over the past 2 years, Isaac and I have had the privilege of learning from hundreds of students across campus about what it truly means to be a member of the Wildcat community. We've learned how to play solitaire with the Card Club. We've seen one of the nation's winningest racing organizations with UK Solar Car Team. We've listened and laughed with students as they share fond memories of their K-Week experience. This past year, we haven't been sitting in the background. We've been on the front lines. We've decided to run again, not out of a self-proclaimed egoism or even at a chance at redemption. We stand before you today because we believe in the power of representation and the power of listening. The policies we've showcased are based on your ideas, your needs, and your desires.
It truly is a privilege to stand here today amongst this field of student leaders. I came to this university not knowing a soul and frankly not knowing what I was going to do to make this strange place home. Oddly enough, it started with SGA stumbling into the office mere feet from this theater. I hadn't any idea what SGA did, who it was for, how to even be involved, but I understood the mission. It is this mission of serving students, being ambassadors for change, and equitably supporting campus that drove me to SGA. After almost 3 years of calling UK home, I have learned a tremendous amount about what it means to be a leader, to serve, and to represent students well. You don't have to be an elected official to lead and advocate for others. You just have to care enough to listen and take pride in the missions of your peers. Our policies are designed to cater to the needs of a wide range of students, but even now, they won't solve every issue that our campus faces. It is our responsibility to earn your vote by equipping student leaders with the tools necessary to accomplish their goals and to continue to meet students where they are, not just invite them in.
Thank you, Isaac and Mallory. Good job. All right, it is now time for Hallie and Vendela.
Thank you. Hi, y'all. I'm Hallie Rice, and I'm your candidate for student body president. As a first-generation Black student from a low-income household in Louisville, I've worked hard to get to my dream school, the University of Kentucky. Yet time and time again, I have been disappointed by this institution and the way that it treats students. I'm running for student body president because I know what it feels like to be underrepresented. I know what it feels like to be discriminated against, and I know what it feels like to feel excluded from the organization that is meant to uplift, advocate for, and represent all students. It's time that we change the narrative and have people in leadership positions that actually care about all students. This campus is for more than just myself. This campus is for the international students, the graduate and professional students, the queer students, the disabled students, the non-traditional students, the off-campus students, and everyone who doesn't fit into any of those categories. It's time that we have inclusive and competent leadership, which is why I am proud to be running with my friend, Vendela Norris.
I grew up in a very chaotic environment,
and it was hard to find my footing in this world. I learned at a young age that leadership roles and community involvement, I can support those around me. The impact that serving others had on me in my life was incredible. I grew from those experiences, learning about my community by empathizing and learning from others' perspectives. When I first came to UK, I found a deep passion for student government in the communities I had the privilege of learning from and collaborating with. But my 3 years of involvement, I've also been disappointed. There is little to no regard for equity and cultural sustainability from leadership, and that's why this election is important. The current structure of SGA does not advocate for us all, defend us all, or improve the well-being of us all. That's why we are up here to change the narrative and bring solutions that will outlive our administration.
Thank you so much, Hallie and Bendela. Good job. All right, so our first question for tonight will be specific to the role of the student body president. Here's your question. Engagement with the University of Kentucky administration, staff, and board of trustees is an integral part of being a student body president. What are current issues facing University of Kentucky students today? How would your administration address these issues with our campus administrators? Let's begin with Brooklyn and Isaac.
Yes, so the issues that face our student body are very, definitely non-exhaustive. There are so many issues where I couldn't list them all, but there are a few that we plan in our administration to be able to address. The first thing is student first resources. This includes dorms, dining halls, classrooms. This is a wonderful facility that we're in right now, but not all buildings on campus look like this. They don't all have the same size desks. They don't have proper AC and heating to where you can't walk in without feeling like you're in a toaster oven. Our dining halls are not equipped to serve the incoming classes, which are bigger and bigger every single year. And although we do have so much coming into this university, there's not much that's being shown for it. There are millions and millions of dollars that have been put into the 90 and champs that these projects in the 3 years that we've been here, these projects have not been broken, they have not broken ground. So in these positions, we really want to apply pressure onto the administration to improve these resources. And that applies to those, but also our wellness resources. The UKCC is overcapacitated and it cannot serve all the students that it needs to. And there are so many other resources like this that we want administration to recognize the disparity and address that, and we will be your voice for that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brooklyn. Good job. All right, Isaac.
Thank you. I'm just going to start by saying I think Brooklyn made some fantastic points. I think one thing that we have to talk about is continuity. The reality is SGA has a one-year turnover on almost every single position, and the reality is when we have these turnover rates, we often have projects left to the wayside. One thing that me and Mallory have been so pertinent on is making sure that when we came back this year, we wanted to make sure we weren't just going to abandon the policies we had last year. One big thing for me was we wanted to talk about the student game day experience and make sure it's a safer program for every single student here at the University of Kentucky. In October, I went to the Dean of Students, Dr. Clement Montgomery, and said we need to start talking about ways we can make this campus safer. That's just one example of something that you don't need to be a student leader to go and advocate for, but the reality is we need to advocate for it. So what we're looking for in anything with student body president is we need to understand the rules and the ways we engage with administrators, and we've been able to do that regardless of this position. If we actually want to make change here on campus, we need to understand the problems we have, which were stated beautifully, but also that the continuity matters. That's why we want to improve the LDP program so that when Mallory Times is gone, we want to be able to come back and say, hey, these people are ready to take up and finish the job. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Isaac. Next, we'll have Haley.
Can you please restate the question for me?
Absolutely. So the question is specific to the role of the student body president. Engagement with the University of Kentucky administration, staff, and board of trustees is an integral part of being student body president. What are current issues facing the University of Kentucky students today? And how would your administration address these issues with our campus administrators?
Thank you. Some of the current issues facing underrepresented communities in particular are accessibility, equity, transparency. One of the things that we are going to push for to the administration is an ADA accessibility audit, making sure that every building on campus, every parking space on campus is actually accessible for all students, making sure that there are gender-neutral bathrooms in every building on campus so that we're meeting the needs of every population. Another thing that we're focusing on is the campus resource database that we have proposed. We want to make sure that the administration is providing the resources that students actually need. If we don't meet the needs of students first, then the game day experience doesn't matter. Tailgating doesn't matter. If you cannot take care of yourself first, if you cannot focus on your academics, if you are not taking care of your mental health, then there is no way that you can adequately enjoy the college experience. Another thing that we're pushing for is food equity on campus. We're pushing to make sure that every person, regardless of income, regardless of religious background, is able to eat on campus and meet their dietary needs, having sustainable protein options for vegan and vegetarian students, making sure the dining halls are open for all students, with adequate time to actually eat.
Thank you so much, Haley. Appreciate that. Now we would like to hear from Lizzie.
I want to touch on something that Hallie mentioned, and she said something about our campus resource database. We have so many resources available to us on campus that touch on so many different needs of students that we need to see those all in one location, whether that be an app or a website. I would want to talk to administration about getting all of our resources centralized so that students can best take advantage of all of the plentiful resources that UK offers to us, so that we can grow as students and we can see all of the resources that we could possibly need in one place. Specifically, Jason and I want to see more investment and time put into our mental health resources on campus. Seeing those all put in one place, I think, is going to make a huge difference. UK has so many different options for our mental health resources and how we can reach out to get help, but there are so many students out there that are struggling with mental health. I would love to see an investment into those resources.
Awesome, thank you so much. All right, as promised in the rules and housekeeping rules, we mentioned that you would have 30 seconds to do a rebuttal. So at this time, we would like to offer all candidates the opportunity to rebuttal, starting with Brooklyn.
Would one of us either be able to?
Either one of you, yes.
Would you like to speak on this?
So not necessarily a rebuttal, just kind of to highlight some things that all of us are bringing up as tickets. Food insecurity is rampant across campus. Mental health across the student body is in decline, and availability of resources on campus isn't up to par to what's needed. Just to state some statistics from the American College Health Association's third national health assessment for UK, 55% of students are reporting a high level of food insecurity, so that's something that Brooklyn and I are heavily focusing on, and that's something that we want to champion as a ticket.
Awesome, thank you. Isaac, would you like to have a rebuttal?
We're gonna wave, thank you.
Okay. Hallie, would you like to rebuttal? Okay. And Lizzie, would you like to rebuttal? Okay. All right, so we will go into our second question for the night. Our second question has to deal with the role of the student body vice president. As a student body vice president, you often serve in a supportive role to the president and members of the executive branch, while also leading the Student Senate as Student Senate President in the legislative branch. How do you plan to cultivate a culture of collaboration between the legislative and executive branches? Let's begin with Mallory.
So while creating spaces on campus for students to express their opinions, I think it's an excellent idea to kind of bridge that gap, if you will, between the legislative and the executive branches. I do have a lot of experience in outreach within the executive branch as the 2021-2022 academic year's director of marketing and communications. I know firsthand that we can't rely on students to come to us. We have to get out there in the community and get that student opinion, and that's going to be valuable for the legislative branch and also for the executive branch as well.
Thank you so much. Vendela, would you like to begin?
Also, my name is Vendela.
Sorry.
Thank you. Could you restate the question, please?
Absolutely. Our second question has to deal with the role of the student body vice president. As student body vice president, you often serve in a supportive role to the president and members of the executive branch while also leading the student senate as Senate president in the legislative branch. How do you plan to cultivate a culture of collaboration between the legislative and executive branches?
Thank you. To start off with this question, I would like to highlight an issue within SGA currently, that there is a communication gap between the executive branch and the legislation branch. There is currently no collaboration. So therefore, SGA is not connected entirely. So our proposal for bridging the gap of communication would be to have more initiatives and opportunities for executive members and legislative members to work on issues with minority communities and minority organizations within the community. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we would like to go to Jason.
I just want to highlight, I think Vandela did a great job about the communication factor. One thing that I truly believe to create a collaborative environment is to understand that a job title and a role is just a title and it's just a role. You are the same exact level as your peers that are sitting in the room beside you, and I think that's something that needs to be made clear and affirmative. One thing that I think that would allow people to come together as one and understand and also be on the same page is implementing a full SGA meeting. There are students on this campus that have absolutely no idea what this amazing organization does, and if we welcome them with open arms, it not allows third-party ideas to be entered in, but it also allows them to see the in and outs of this amazing organization. If we want more voices and we want more representation with other communities on this campus, it starts with collaborating as one team, striving for one goal on this campus.
Thank you so much. Next, we'll move to Patrick.
So in my 3 years of experience on Senate, I've been able to communicate pretty well between both the legislative and executive branches on multiple task forces. Specifically this year, I helped work on the elections codes overhaul, as well as some DEI initiatives that are going through Senate currently, specifically a caucus system resolution that's being drawn up by some of our amazing senators in academic and student affairs. I've already showed a proven track record that I'm willing to talk to anyone about any issue at any time, whether they're in Senate, whether they're legislative, whether they're executive or not. I do acknowledge the point that other tickets here are making, that there is a gap in communication between both of the branches. However, I do believe that there is enough proactivity between all of the individuals on both branches that we have been collaborating on things. So I just want to stand up for those individuals on that fact, because I'm proud of their work and I'm proud of my own work.
Thank you so much. At this time, we'll move to rebuttals, starting with Mallory. Vandela, would you like to begin? Jason and Patrick. Okay. No. All right, our third question of the night. Our next set of questions surround the topic of diversity, equity, and inclusion. What has been your ticket's specific commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion during your time at UK? And if elected, what would your administration's plan to further this commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion look like? Let's begin with Hallie and Vandela. Vandela, sorry.
Could you repeat the question one more time, please?
Yeah. Our next set of questions is surrounded around the topic of diversity and equity inclusion. What has been your ticket's specific commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion during your time at UK? And if elected, what would your administration's plan to further this commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion look like?
Thank you. Through the conversations that we've had with students and organizations on campus, the issues that we find most prevalent are raising student minimum wage, institutionalizing equal opportunity within SGA, and food equity. I would like to highlight food equity. If elected, we would implement a program for a meal swipe exchange, which includes for example, if a student had extra meal swipes, they would be able to donate those to students who are in need. Because speaking with students and hearing what they have to say about the thought of having to go hungry at night because they don't have enough meal swipes is heartbreaking, and that is an issue that we can overcome. Thank you.
In addition to this, we've also focused on the campaign trail on advocating for students with disabilities, queer students, and students that are underrepresented, but not because of their race. So one thing that we are wanting to do is advocate for more disability resources on campus, making sure that the Disability Resource Center is actually meeting the needs of students and focusing on things in an intersectional way. The needs of a international grad student are not going to be the same as the needs of a white undergraduate student. In addition to this, we want to codify racism and hate speech, because you cannot address an issue if you have not defined the problem. If you have not defined the actual root cause of the issue, you cannot address it by any of the initiatives that can possibly be proposed. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next will be Lizzie and Jason.
I think a lot of great points were made, and the one thing I want to pay focus to is when you think about equity, it's having the same end goal as everybody, but giving the right tools to the right people to achieve that same goal as other students here on this campus. One thing that Lizzie and I believe is very strong and forefront in our minds is specifically within the classroom here at UK. TCEs, teacher course evaluations, are what make it vital for students to not only use their voice, but allow equity to be maintained for every single student in and outside the classroom. The reason why we are pushing for at least some type of classroom incentive for reaching and promoting and finishing your TCEs is it allows the faculty members and staff to read those comments and actually make a change towards the students. It allows professors and doctors to understand the things that they're doing correct and the things that they are doing wrong. Not only does this allow every student to succeed in the furthermore classes that they take, but it allows the professor to reflect and really challenge themselves within their classroom to allow more tools to be utilized within the classroom to help their students who are struggling. And as well, it creates a better environment and students feel more comfortable taking these courses because they know that the right tools and necessities are going to be achievable and available to them at any given point and at every given time.
Thank you so much. Brooklyn and Patrick?
Okay, so this is something that kind of really hits home with me being a resident advisor on campus. I've handled multiple bias-related incidents as well as students bringing concerns to me over their race or other identities. When presented with these concerns, I've always been the person to try and find outside support and getting resources straight allocated to a student, providing them with direct comfort and resolution to whatever they bring forward. And so I think our commitment as a ticket is really just finding ourselves kept in the loop with key university entities like resident directors, the Office of Student Conduct, the VIP Center, and the Counseling Center.
In our work, we plan to continue the amazing work of our current senators and exec members alike to find solutions to the ongoing problems of disenfranchisement and ignoring our students of color when it comes to decisions made on improvements in campus safety. I recognize, I cannot speak to the experience that, and I just want to call this out because I think it's really important that Black folk having endured at predominantly white institutions and with the race-based incident that happened in the fall. I think it's important that I tell you guys that I am deeply, deeply committed that, because I am a woman of color, I understand race issues to an extent that relate to my specific identity, and I can of others. But I do promise to advocate not only for improvements in funding for other, for minority groups, but also to press administration to address these issues with much more proactivity and much more attention. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Isaac, would you like to begin?
Yeah, thank you. In the preamble of our governing constitution, it states that all students at the University of Kentucky are members of UKSGA. Our belief is that an accessible and equitable UKSGA starts with us, and no student should be excluded or prevented from having their voice heard. If elected, we will not only invite students to the table, but provide them with the necessary tools and resources to pursue their passions and share their vision for campus. This begins with recruiting a diverse team of students to represent every corner of campus within the executive team, and giving each team member the support necessary to achieve their goals. Thank you.
Okay. Now we will move into rebuttals. Holly and Vendela, would you like to start with rebuttals?
Yes, thank you. I would just like to point out that sitting here today, I am the only Black woman on this stage, and we are the only female ticket sitting on this stage. And so we do bring a vast array of different experiences from the other candidates sitting up here. And in addition to that, we have prioritized speaking with minority organizations. We have gotten endorsements from the queer organizations. We've gotten endorsements from Black student leaders on campus, and we have committed to talking to as many minorities as possible.
Awesome, thank you. Next, Lizzie and Jason.
We just want to add that when we're talking about the campus community, that also means off campus. For students that are penny pinching to come to this university, that includes housing as well. And it is very expensive to live off campus here. And we believe that the university should at least advocate to allow more Wi-Fi access to those students to better help them endure the success here on campus. Giving somebody an iPad only goes as far as being on campus. And we want to make sure we're talking about our off-campus students as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Brooklyn and Patrick.
Another thing that our ticket really wants to commit to is expanding SGA's outward interaction with DEI staff members across these colleges. A lot of these staff positions are not held in a standardized way, where some of them are unpaid, some of them are paid, some of them are volunteer hours from other faculty members. So we would really just like to start a conversation with administration about standardizing those practices across the colleges.
And I do want to reiterate just that the support that we have for all DII represents all minority organizations and identities on this campus of races and all identities.
Thank you. Isaac and Mallory? Okay. All right, our next question is part of the strategic plan here at the University of Kentucky. In the University of Kentucky strategic plan outlined the goal to create greater and direct partnerships between the university and communities throughout the Commonwealth on diversity, equity, and inclusion-related matters. To this extent, how will your administration work towards developing collaborations and direct partnerships that will bring together many people in one community? Let's start with Lizzie and Jason.
Absolutely, that is such an important topic. First of all, Jason and I have already opened ourselves up to 24/7 access to us. So if any student, regardless of who they are, wants to get a hold of us and talk about a topic, we're available. We already have our personal phone numbers posted on our Instagram. So we're already opening ourselves up to hear from all students, no matter what. Additionally, Jason and I want to include all students in our executive team if elected, and we would be so excited to welcome all of those students and provide them with any resource that they need to be successful on the executive team. Thank you.
I think it's also important to highlight as well that when you're talking about creating a conversation, that's inviting everybody to the table. And in a collaborative community, when you're thinking about all these different pillars that make this university whole, you need to be talking and making sure that you are talking to every single person. Regardless, if they can't make one meeting, have a follow-up meeting. Create a flexible schedule that allows you to meet and reach out to every single individual and every single person. The only way you're going to make a change for yourself, not only for the student body, is if you're willing to go down and get nitty-gritty and actually figure out a schedule to make sure everybody's communicating and collaborating at least once or twice per week.
Thank you so much. Next, let's go to Brooklyn and Patrick.
So in terms of our commitment to DEI and how we're going to be reaching out to other students as well as other entities on campus, I've already been partaking in work in SGA Senate to codify the responsibilities of the Director of DEI, as well as the aforementioned caucus system that will allow for students of any background to receive sponsorship from a senator to create their own caucus that can present ideas for legislation, budget changes, ideas for advocacy without actually being a member of SGA. Through this, those who have been personally impacted by the racism that is undeniably still alive and well on this campus will have the opportunity to make themselves heard and understood in a capacity that SGA has not yet allowed for.
And I think the caveat of this caucus system that we're talking about is that it's really incentivizing groups such as minority student organizations and interest organizations to come to Senate and speak their voice, and incentivize them having a group, because there are so many students that don't know that we are as available as we are as people, as SGA members, and as students. It's very daunting to try to get in touch with a governing organization on campus, but by creating a space where we incentivize participation in the government by non-SGA members, while also making ourselves personally available by posting office hours and putting our personal contact info in the public domain, we can do that.
Thank you. Isaac and Mallory?
So if there was one thing that I learned in my term as the UKSGA Director of Marketing and Communications, we can't expect students, organizations, people in the community to come to us. We have to go to them. We don't hang up posters in the SGA office and invite students to come look at them. We don't just leave our door open and say, hey, it's open, come on in. We have to take the initiative to go out into the campus community and seek those partnerships with individuals. We have already met with over 80 RSOs and student leaders throughout this campaign process, and that doesn't stop when we're elected. That's when it begins, and we want to continue to have those student forums throughout our term in office, and know that not only is our door always open, but we're always going to go out into those open doors in the community as well.
All right, Holly and Bandala.
Can you repeat?
Haley and Bandala. Yes, you want me to repeat?
Yes, please.
All right. As its strategic plan, the University of Kentucky outlined the goal to create greater and direct partnerships between the university and communities throughout the Commonwealth on diversity, equity, and inclusion-related matters. To this extent, how will your administration work towards developing collaborations and direct partnerships that will bring together many people in one community?
I think one thing to point out, especially with this campaign, is how connected we are across the Commonwealth. We are connected with SGA presidents from the University of Louisville to Murray State University. We're connected with private institutions based on the connections that we've made over the years through my role as the president of the College Democrats, and also by the opportunities that we've had to go to leadership retreats for student government. We are committed to holding those conversations that are necessary with those student government leaders across the state. In addition, we are connected with political people across the state, which gives us the opportunity to not only use these positions to advocate at the university level, but to advocate for international students at the international level on behalf of the university, as well as the state level.
Another point I would like to bring up to create more of a community through SGA is reinforcing recruitment, because there's not much recruitment through SGA. The problem I've come across a lot while being in SGA is a lot of people don't even know what the student government is, what it does, and even how to get involved. So reaching out to specifically minority organizations and communities to bring in that diversity, equity, and inclusion, and making SGA positions more accessible, and to have more information how to get involved.
Thank you. At this time, we'll move to rebuttals. Lizzie and Jason?
I think Vandala, again, as well, brought up an amazing point, and it does not just stop with undergrad. I think what we also need to focus on is the thousands of students that come here for our graduate schools. UK is top tier with graduate schools, and to have that separation is something that we want to eliminate and make sure that we're focusing our time on these amazing graduate students, and that they know that their time doesn't stop in undergrad. They are able to be open and welcomed with open arms on this campus, just as if they were in their undergrad.
Thank you. Brooklyn and Patrick?
Yes, I do want to mention, in terms of making ourselves accessible to all of campus, I think it's important that although we may have our own personal views and there are ways that we feel about things without obviously inviting hate and discrimination into our office, that we do not politicize the student government office that is supposed to be for students, not for parties, to allow students of all different ideologies to feel welcome in our spaces.
Thank you. Isaac and Mallory? Haley and Bandala. Thank you. All right, our next topic for tonight's debate surrounds student engagement. SGA continues to expand its representation on executive and legislative and judicial branches. What is your administration's plan to outreach to these students not typically represented within the organization? Let's begin with Brooklyn and Patrick.
So many students don't know what SGA does, and that's in large part because of the niche benefits that SGA provides directly to students. While event holding and planning is an important part of what our organization does, I don't believe it should be the main method by which we're communicating with students and finding a way to get them involved. Specifically within my position in the Senate, I've been doing a lot of grant and scholarship allocations to our graduate students as well as undergraduates. I believe that changing up the budget and the way that it's allocated in SGA and finding a way to provide more direct benefit to our students will also bolster them to feel a need to be more involved. Because I can speak personally, I feel like providing that funding to students who need it, who are in need, to remove those financial disparities is very self-fulfilling, and that's something that I would love to have other undergraduate and graduate students participate in.
Thank you. Isaac and Mallory?
Thank you. I just want to talk a little bit about one of our pillars, which is SGA transparency and communication under the campus engagement. SGA, we've visited all these organizations, and one of the most common things we hear is, what does SGA do? People don't realize that SGA is not only a tool to facilitate the allocation of funds, almost a $1 million budget, but it's also supposed to be the representative body of our organization, an entire student body. So what we really want to do is make sure we recruit a diverse enough team that's going to come from all corners of the campus. That's why we're not just going to the orgs with 200-300 people in them. We're going to the orgs with 5, 6, 7, 8. I've emailed over 500 organizations over the past 3 weeks to see if we can meet, and half the time they just say, what does SGA even do? The reality is we have a communications issue. Like we've talked about, everyone here. We need to be able to communicate what SGA does and how it can support people. And that starts, I think, with freshman recruitment and retention, or whether that's K-Week, the expansion of LDP, or just making sure students are aware of the services available to them. Thank you.
Helene Vendala.
Thank you. So one thing that we want to focus on is institutionalizing equal opportunity in SGA, which as it is right now in the hiring process, there's really no accountability. So on top of reaching out to a variety of students and making sure that we're actually being representative in our hiring process or in our recruitment process, we want to make sure that we are using blind applications. We don't know who you are. We have no bias going into it based on your race, based on your gender, based on your name, the organizations that you're affiliated with, until we see you and are able to say, hey, I think that this person needs an interview. And then making sure that we are representing students on this campus, from international students to off-campus students to non-traditional students, and making sure that those people have a place in student government.
One more time, my name is Vendala. Thank you.
Got it, sorry.
Another one of our initiatives to combat the issue regarding outreach is to have more representation of other organizations. So we want to have more direct contact with the executive branch and legislation branch in collaboration with other minority organizations, and having a representative from each and every one of those organizations to cultivate more collaboration.
Thank you. Lizzie and Jason.
Throughout the past year, I've served as an arts and sciences ambassador for specifically political science and sociology. The one thing that we know and learn through the frontline work about student engagement, it's about knowledge and integration of them within our community. When you think about SGA, me specifically being an out-of-state student, I had zero idea what the organization was, what it entailed, and what the interests were and benefits for my own well-being here. I believe that SGA need to at least team up with the university as a one-on-one standpoint, and not only handing out flyers and packets for these welcoming letters for freshmen, that not only allows a farther engagement and interest, but allows our turnover rate to at least stay consistent. We don't want to keep seeing this open door that students are coming in and out of SGA and changes being thrown out left and right. We want students that want to create real change, and it starts at their freshman year to build on as they continue their education here.
Speaking of freshmen, with such a large incoming freshman class, we want to make sure that these freshmen have all the resources that they need. And I touched on this a little bit earlier, but we want to have a location where those freshmen can have all their questions answered, all those resources available to them, so whatever community or organization they want to join, they have access to get in touch and know when that meets, and so they have the opportunity to get involved, know exactly what each club does, and they can see that all in one centralized location instead of having to search.
Thank you so much. We're going to go into rebuttal. Brooklyn and Patrick.
Yeah, I would just like to touch Jason, Lizzie, Hallie, and Vendala did say some really great things. I do want to point out, though, that in the hiring process that we commit to putting forth in these positions, I think it's important to recognize the different identities of different people while holding accountable to lack of discrimination, obviously. I think it's important to be able to know that you're taking out-of-state students, minority students, queer students, and students from all walks of life and different backgrounds to be able to represent instead of doing something that is necessarily blind that may allow only a certain type of student to pass through that may have more experience because of their circumstances that they've been allowed.
Thank you. Isaac and Mallory. Holly and Vendala.
To respond to Brooklyn's comment, One thing with the blind hiring process is that it gives everybody the equal opportunity, the equitable opportunity to have their strengths realized without saying, hey, we have to have a quota to make sure that we're representing Black students, to make sure that we are pulling in international students and out-of-state students, by using that as something that defines them before we even know who they are, what their strengths are, and what they might be able to bring to the organization.
Lizzie and Jason. All right. Thank you so much. Okay. Our next question is related to our graduate students, graduate and professional students, as well as postdoc students. So UK SGA represents all undergraduate, graduate, professional, and postdoctoral students enrolled at the University of Kentucky. What is your administration's platform regarding support and outreach to our graduate, professional, and doctoral students? Let's start with Isaac and Mallory.
Thank you. I think this is one thing that we focused on a lot in the campaign last year, is talking about graduate students, and it has been a subtopic, if not even mentioned at all, this campaign. And it's important because graduate students make up 7,000 of our students we have here today. They're the ones teaching our classes, the ones doing the research that are going to change our tomorrow, and they're important. The hard thing we have right now is SGA does not equitably equip graduate students the way that they do at other universities. A lot of graduate students want to see a bicameral system. I don't know if that's the system for us, but the reality is we haven't talked about this in SGA in an open forum at all this year. Every time I try to get information about it, I get dismissed because we don't have any information that's going to be put into the student body. We need to start addressing these issues head on, and we need to start talking about what graduate students actually need, because the reality is we don't know what they are. I'm an undergraduate. But if we can elevate their voices to the table, we'll be able to take care of them every day, every one step at a time.
Thank you. Next, we'll move to Holly and Vandala.
It's okay. So regarding the issue of involvement of grad students within SGA has been a long-term issue that I think there needs to be more initiatives behind what grad students want to see within SGA, how can we recruit them effectively, and how can they represent themselves. They already have their experience. We just need to give them the tools on how to be successful within SGA.
Another thing that one of the graduate students in SGA currently pointed out to me when we talked is that we need to focus on international student recruitment. Why is our international graduate student population decreasing, and why are we not addressing that? Another thing that we should focus on is the child care grant, which I know is going to be talked about. Making sure that we're actually applying for the national level grant to pull in more funding to the Student Government Association, to the university, to make sure that we have every resource we can possibly access to make sure that we're meeting their needs.
Thank you. Next will be Lizzie and Jason.
So Lizzie and I sitting up here, we have friends already our age that are in graduate school, which means that they came to their undergrad experience with enough credits to graduate in 2 or 3 years. And one thing that allowed us to create one of our pillars inside of our platforms is community welfare. And the one thing that Lizzie and I harp on every single time we talk about it is ensuring that every student is accounted for and is represented in the utmost amount of respect, gratitude, and inclusivity. Keyword is student. You are a graduate student. We are undergrad students. At the end of the day, we come to this university, this institution, as students. The number one thing that we get reported on is the lack of communication between the institution and graduate students. We want to make sure that we're still having those conversations like we stated back earlier, including everybody in the conversation and still accessibilizing these wants and needs to make sure that they didn't just lose out on the last 2 years or, should be feeling frowned upon that they started their career earlier. Every student deserves the right amount of respect and resources and tools, regardless of their standing and whatever degree that they are reaching for.
In addition to that, Jason and I focused all of our platforms on changes that would apply to both undergraduate and graduate students. This includes the changes that we want to see in teacher course evaluations, with the wildcard ID, with parking, and with our centralized resource location. We wanted these changes to be applicable to everyone, not just undergraduate or graduate students, so they can make a difference for every single student.
Thank you very much. Brooklyn and Patrick.
So like Hallie brought up for me, the work that I've been doing in Student affairs in SGA has mostly been catered to graduate and professional students, whether that's allocating them money to afford to put their children. Oh, is my microphone going on? Okay. Putting their children through daycare as they study here at the university, or reimbursing them for registration fees for professional conferences. Our administration plans to place a larger emphasis on programs like these in SGA's budget and continue the current work of SGA's administration to establish a daycare facility for students to use at no extra cost. We also plan to continue the work of the current administration to further our relationship with the Graduate Student Council and integrate them into our Senate so that we can have a more equal number of representatives between the undergraduate and graduate populations.
And this is also not to mention that there is a clear deficit in food security specifically for our graduate students, where their classes and responsibilities can run anywhere from 8 to 5. And on top of being in school and having a job, there aren't as many scholarships available for graduate students. So we really want to address that disparity. Most select dining facilities begin and open for only 3 hours at a time or 4 hours at a time, which makes it very difficult for graduate students to use university dining facilities. Suffice it to say, our graduate students not only need support in having their voices heard as part of our student population, which we can address through also outreach to graduate student schools and like the law school and the pharmacy school and the general graduate school, but we also need to address assistance.
Thank you. At this time, we'll move into rebuttals. Isaac and Mallory. Okay. Holly and Bendal.
Thank you. One thing that I would like to point out that was said in both the debate this year and the debate last year is at least two of the campaigns up here are taking a unilateral approach. What we do for undergraduate students can apply for graduate students. That's not true. That's not true at all. One of the things that we're focusing on is intersectionality and making sure that we're meeting the needs of each student as they come. We're meeting the needs of graduate students based on what they want to see. We're talking to them, we're interacting with them, we're meeting with their organizations, and then applying our policies to them then.
Thank you. Lizzie and Jason. Brooklyn and Patrick.
Yes, I do want to just emphasize one part of our pillar of our inclusivity pillar, where we just really want to meet students where they are. Our graduate and undergraduate students alike, they all sit on different areas of needs and wants and just general well-being, and we want to take everybody where they are and put them up to that optimal level where we ensure equitable access and equitable administration of these resources for all students regardless of where their starting point may be.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, moving into our final topic for tonight's debate centers around student government. As campus prepares for the transition of a new SGA leadership, how will your team work to be a liaison between the University of Kentucky administration and the student body? Let's begin with Hallie and Bandola.
Could you repeat the question one more time, please?
Absolutely. Our final topic for tonight's debate centers around student government. As the campus prepares for the transition of new SGA leadership, how will your team work to be a liaison between the University of Kentucky administration and the student body?
Thank you. This is a topic Hallie and I and our team have discussed a lot. We believe that, again, there is a lack of communication from the general student body to SGA and within the administration. So having a space for students to come to SGA and discuss their issues, their concerns, if it's regarding accessibility, safety, discrimination on campus, all of those concerns are valid, and we are here to represent those concerns to administrators. And although we are in the position to talk to administrators, we want to elevate students to be able to speak to administrators directly about their concerns.
One thing that we focused on a lot in conversation is making sure that everything that we are able to go to, you are able to go to too. We want to have public meetings. We want to have public emails. Why are we hiding things? If we're able to sit here and talk to administrators, why can't you join us? If you have a concern, why can't you communicate that to them directly? We're supposed to be your advocate, but advocacy is also uplifting you and holding you to the same standard, giving you the tools to meet your own needs and giving you the tools to advocate for yourself.
Thank you. Lizzie and Jason.
several candidates have already mentioned that this is a one-year deal. And so one of Jason and I's goals is going to be to learn of the pitfalls and the successes of the past exec and leaders. I think we really have a lot to learn from everybody who's been in our position before us and how they got things accomplished, because we want to be just as successful as they have been. We will make it a priority to learn from them and absorb every bit of knowledge that we can so that we can best communicate with our administrators and be the best advocates for change that we possibly can be on campus.
Furthermore, providing an example of something that we talked about, especially with thinking about the university body as a whole and student government, is right now our student university code of conduct is an interim. That means it is not finalized. It is just a draft to make sure that what we think is going to work is working, and it could not, and there could be changes. When you think about any type of action that happens here on campus, everything is reverted back to the code of conduct. And us allowing the door to be open to speak with not only the director of student conduct, but the university government as a whole, not only allows students to say things that they like and don't like, but it also allows new amendments and codes to be added in to make sure that any type of student regarding any race, gender, background, ethnicity, any walk of life is upheld and knows exactly what's there to represent them and protect them in situations where their human rights are infringed upon.
Thank you very much. Brooklyn and Patrick.
So during my tenure in SGA, I have met with administrators to work collaboratively towards goals aimed to benefit the university and the students. During my freshman year as a coordinator, my passion project was to get rid of the styrofoam to-go boxes to promote a more sustainable option, but also remove the financial barrier to use those green reusable boxes, because there shouldn't be a financial barrier to use a long-term sustainable option. I met with Aramark, our dining food provider, and made efforts to find a cost-effective and more sustainable solution. While the impact was a bit short-lived because of the downfall of the COVID-19 pandemic, thank God, I've never hesitated, even as a freshman, to meet with these large leaders of these companies. More recently, in my role as Director of Health and Assistant Director of Health and Wellness, I've been involved with maintaining a partnership between SGA and the Office of Student Success with Dr. Corinne Williams, and where we discuss plans and initiatives like our Headspace memberships, which we offer to the student body for free, which is coming soon, I promise. And an upcoming naloxone training to combat opioid overdoses on and around campus, because drug use is a issue that does face our population, not only as students, but in the state of Kentucky. After dealing with UK admin during my time as a student leader, I'm very well versed in communicating with administrators to achieve goals on behalf of the student body. I do not hesitate to advocate for these goals, and I will be uncensored when I am talking to the people that can actually sign the deals to make good things happen for all the students. I've already cultivated working relationships across multiple areas of campus, and I only further intend to expand those.
Thank you so much. Now let's go to Isaac and Mallory.
For my freshman year in the leadership development program, where I had the opportunity to meet Isaac and Brooklyn and Vendela, I began forging very important relationships with administrators that then continued into my time on SGA's exec as the Director of Marketing and Communications. Our campaign has this central motto of bridging the gap. But what does that mean? There are over 700 student organizations, and we have an incredible opportunity to reach students through the positions of student body president and vice president. We want to be the liaisons between different student voices, different student organizations, and of course the administration, which can be achieved through bridging the gap.
Thank you so much. We are now going to go into rebuttals. I want to first start out by apologizing to Vendela for pronouncing your name wrong. A name is important, so it is important that I get it right. So
Thank you.
I want to publicly apologize for that. At this time, we want to hand it off to the two of you to start with our rebuttals. Okay. All right, Lizzie and Jason.
The one thing Lizzie and I just want to make clear is that when we're sitting up here, they're asking us about our ideas, and our ideas stem from you guys as students. And I think sitting in the audience right now, it seems as if, well, I have some things that I want to say, and I want to go up there and make my own change. If Lizzie and I were inducted to be your student body president and vice president, we want you to understand that we are not speaking for you, you're speaking through us. That anything that you share with us is going to be said directly in the quotes of your own voice. And if you ever wanted to come with us to any meeting, we want to make sure that those ideas are shared and spread. And that starts with meeting the administrators.
Thank you. Brooklyn and Patrick.
So I just wanted to take a second to talk about the idea of commitment and how all of us are committing to do these different things. Brooklyn and I both, in our 6 years of experience within SGA, have made tangible and concrete difference. Me specifically, outside of SGA, I am a resident advisor. Like I said, I'm also on the resident advisory board, where I've been advocating for change. I've already had conversations with student conduct about overhauling the codes so that they can be more equitable to students and better protect our students. Commitment is all well and good, but our time in SGA split up among us could have already been used to address issues such as these.
Thank you. Isaac and Mallory? Okay. And finally, where do you see the University of Kentucky in 10 years, and what role do you see SGA contributing to that vision? Let's start with Hallie and Vendela.
One of the most important things that Hallie and I have discussed is creating a legacy with our administration. So having incentives that outlive us, that cultivate a culture of sustainability for students to thrive in and to truly get a college experience that is healthy and that sets them up for the future. So we want to create a culture within SGA that promotes accessibility, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and incentives that will be repeated throughout other administrations.
Another thing that I'd like to focus on that we didn't have a chance to touch on yet is that I hope that the University of Kentucky becomes a part of the Lexington community. That we're not just sitting here and saying, oh, well, the University of Kentucky is basically Lexington. No, we are a part of this city, we are a part of this Commonwealth of Kentucky, and we should be doing our part to make change in this state, to make sure that we're actually giving students the opportunity to go from the University of Kentucky into the state and make changes on their own.
Thank you. Lizzie and Jason.
We're all here to be students. So first and foremost, in 10 years, I see every student having every resource they could possibly need to be able to graduate. I see every student having access to textbooks, the nicest classrooms, and the best professors so that every student has the opportunity to get the grade that they want and the opportunity to graduate with the degree that they want. I envision this university being an inclusive space where every student, like I said, has any resource that they need for whatever they need. It's going to be an equitable space. Finally, I see SGA being a place where any student can come and voice their opinion, and we have the opportunity to make change in a hasty way so that we can make the campus grow quickly as we want to see it grow.
And we also want to touch a note on something that Mr. Keene said before we even started this debate. He said for the first time in a long time, there's been 4 candidates sitting up in front of you. I want SGA to be so well known, and I want students to have the fruition and the drive to be sitting in these seats and have it be so competitive that we have leaders that are building this community to be the best it can possibly be. Every single time you think about why should I run, what can I do better, you're looking at the person that was above you or in front of you. You're creating that role model for yourself. And I want SGA to be so vastly conjoined and confined within this community that it creates that sense of joy and passion for students to get involved and speak up for themselves.
Thank you so much. Brooklyn and Patrick.
The caveat of what I want our administration to do upon election is to uplift every single area of campus, whether that be the graduate school, minority organizations, or even students within SGA. I want SGA, and I want us to begin that I want to trailblaze a sort of where we uplift, where all students don't have to worry about the financial burden of college, because I know that's a lot of reason why students can't even come to college in the first place. We want this to be a place where students don't have to worry about their mental health, where they can access facilities like the UKCC, resources like the VIP Center for when they are in crisis situations. I want all of these resources to be improved, salient, and more than acceptable for our students, because we are only as strong as our weakest link, and while no student here is weak, we want to make everybody stronger.
I think just to highlight some more on things that are happening now, more so than 10 years from now, we have 51.5% of students reporting moderate psychological distress and 18.8% reporting serious psychological distress, 44.7% reporting academic issues relating to personal finances. These issues that we're talking about are not items that need to be addressed 10 years from now. I hope that these numbers are down. I hope that things are different on this campus, and I hope that Brooklyn and I can contribute to making things different, but there does need to be a tangible and concrete focus on the things to improve right now in this moment.
Awesome, thank you. Isaac and Mallory.
Thank you. I just want to say, I'm going to speak really candidly. I love this school. I came to this school not knowing a soul, and I came here because I want to learn just as much from the people that I sit next to in my class as the person standing in front of me. This is a school that is the flagship institution in our state, and in doing so, we need to be able to lead not only the SEC and things that we do, but really every institution in Kentucky. One thing we really need to work on is our comprehensive health care for students. UHS is not nearly as comprehensive as it would like it to be. If you look at other schools in the SEC, we're the only one without a 24/7 nurse line. We're actually one of the only schools to not have urgent care for our own facilities. We need to be able to better enhance our student life. If we're gonna do any of the things we talk about, we need to be able to equip a team diversely so they can understand the problems that face every single corner of campus. Me and Mallory don't understand every single corner. That's why we hope to be able to listen to you guys. That's why we listened to so many people over the past 2 years. We want to be able to serve you well, and that starts with listening, and honestly, this is a privilege just to be able to be a part of you today. So thank you guys.
Thank you. At this time, we're going to move to rebuttals. So, Haley and Bendilla.
One thing that I would like to point out that we didn't address originally is that a lot of the things that we're advocating for are systemic reform. We're advocating to change the issues that have been prevalent on this campus for the past however long the university has been here. And these are things that we understand are not going to be able to be changed in our administration, but that we are hoping to be able to continue over the next 10 years to make these changes actually come to fruition by then.
Awesome. Lizzie and Jason. Okay. Brooklyn and Patrick. Isaac and Mallory.
There we go. One more thing that we would like to take, where we would like to take UK into the next 10 years, the next 100 years, is more financial transparency as well. This past year, the University of Kentucky collected over $42 million in student fee money. That's my money, that's your money. Approximately, that's $1,363 of your money. And so we know that this is being distributed to a variety of student services and organizations, but we want to be more transparent about that because you should have a voice in where your money's going, and that's something that our campaign hopes to take into the next year, into the next 10 years, into the next 100.
All right, well, thank you to all of our candidates. We are concluding the portion of questions for tonight, but we want to give our candidates an opportunity to give their 2-minute closing statements. Let's start with Lizzie and Jason.
Thank you. When Lizzie and I shared this passion for this university, more specifically this campus community, we knew we wanted to strive for change. Countless times we have seen the display of shortcomings to proactively listen, advocate, hear, and respect student opinions and passions on this campus. Our campaign to be your next president and vice president, it's not about us, it's about you.
Since the minute I stepped on this campus, I've been taking note of everything inhibiting student success. In compiling and reviewing this list with Jason, we picked out the initiatives we knew would make the biggest impact and were truly possible for us to make a change. We could have given the most ever-changing and engaging platforms that everyone would want to see happen, but we backed not only ourselves, but our campaign off pure transparency. If we knew our jobs cannot control a specific want or student's needs, we chose not to even promote the idea. We wanted honest change that can start with us, and we knew we could make it happen. Every day, Jason and I have been using these promises as our drive, mission, and goal we must reach. These platforms designed by you are feasible, but only possible with your support.
We are tired of being given a seat at the table only for it to be filled with a void of silence and untouched responses. We are exhausted of being promised a voice at the table and the end to only be silenced. It is time to kick the chair, stand up, and govern the table for the room that was designed for you. Your voice matters, your opinions matter, and most importantly, your passion for your own success here at the university matters. This institution was built for you. The staff and faculty were hired for you, to support you. We cannot be successful in an environment that we cannot control at an institution that was made for us to break through the barriers that society deemed impossible for us to reach. If we want to discover what's wildly possible here at UK, we must challenge the status quo and keep pushing for new precedent to not only be formed not just for the betterment of our futures here, but moving forward for each and every single new or future Wildcat that steps foot here on this campus. It is time for change, it is time to be heard, and it is time to be respected for the students that we are and the success that we have here. Thank you for your time.
Brooklyn and Patrick.
I would first like to commend all my fellow candidates. You guys have so much passion and drive. That's just something to be admired and recognized. In this statement, we're gonna focus less on policy and about why we want to be elected to these offices. After having met with many different organizations, having meaningful conversations with many students, and working for 6 years collectively to make concrete and tangible positive impact on the student body, the work we've done speaks for itself. Our understanding of what students need, it causes a need for two people not to act as student body president and vice president, but to be human beings and students alike that share similar struggles as you guys.
You've heard us present on our pillars and discuss what changes need to be made with the other great candidates on this stage tonight. Despite our different views on how this campus can improve and what changes need to be made, I'm confident in saying that no matter the end result of this election, good things will continue to come from SGA. Regardless of winning, Brooklyn and I commit to continue the work we've already been doing. We don't need these offices. It isn't necessary for us to win, to be the #1 ticket as soon as the polls close. Despite the good that we believe we can do if elected to these offices and that we can continue to work towards if elected to these offices, we do not need to be in office to continue to do good work. We are human beings trying to show that we care for others and that we'll be there for you when you need us.
Like Patrick said before, we're all human beings and we're all students. We're not gonna claim to have all the answers on fixing these problems, and we wanna hear from you guys about how we can do better as your advocates. We're just people trying to find our way in this world just like you guys. But we all have experiences that will dictate our decisions in office and in the policy that we plan to advocate for in office. Although we feel these positions would empower and amplify the work we're already doing, we're gonna keep doing it regardless if we get these offices or not, but we hope that you guys can see that we can do a lot for you in these offices.
Thank you. Isaac and Mallory.
We are absolutely honored to have met with a countless amount of student leaders and organizations, and we are confident that our policy, combined with our determination and empathy, will serve students bountifully. We vow to elevate student voices through accurate and equitable advocacy. If Isaac and I are able to assist you in feeling more connected, more passionate, more heard, not only within SGA, but also within the broader community, then our efforts will have been well worth it. We aim to meet the needs of all students by actively listening and seeking to understand their perspectives, and by forging personal connections with student organizations. We understand that we're not qualified to address every issue our community faces, but it is our hope that we can bring together a team of student leaders to address campus issues through an inclusive lens. When you vote for Sutherland Hudson, you're a part of a team that is creating sustainable change for the betterment of our entire campus community. We're ready to move UK forward together.
We've demonstrated continuously in our tenure here at UK that we are committed to supporting students by not only inviting them to the table, but equipping them to share their voice and create tangible change. Regardless of this election, we will remain passionate advocates for our fellow students and strive to understand the needs to address the needs of our campus. Our policies and platforms have been forged by the input and ideas of our peers and their aspirations for a better UK. These are not just political promises. They represent the genuine passions and hopes of our community. As you cast your vote this upcoming week, we encourage you to vote with purpose and demonstrate to those around you that you're not just a vote. You are a pivotal voice and a valued member of this institution. You deserve an SGA that meets you where you are and supports you as a part of our Wildcat family. Let's work together to bridge the gap across campus and create a place that we are all proud to call home.
Last but not least, Hallie and Vendela.
Like I said in the beginning, Hallie and I are here to change the narrative and build solutions to outlive our administration. We are here to raise minimum wage to where students can adequately support their basic needs. We are here to advocate for off-campus students through financial support. We are here to reform leadership development because we're not sufficiently molding student leaders. We are here because we cannot address campus safety with one-size-fits-all approach. We are here because reform is systematic and words are not enough. And our opponents just don't seem to realize that.
At the start of this evening, my friends up here told you that we're going to put students first, give you a seat at the table, bridge the gap. It all sounds great, but we're not here to listen to vague truisms or catchphrases. Vindala and I, we're the only candidates up on this stage that know how equity, transparency, and intersectionality actually change the lives of students like ourselves. We're not up here because we were given a silver platter and had a path in life laid for us. We're here because we weren't and didn't. If you want business as usual, if you want a president whose name you'll only hear in an automated phone call at the start of the school year, vote for anyone else. But if you want a student government that reflects this student body, vote for us. Thank you for coming out here tonight. There's only a week left in this campaign, and I look forward to speaking with all of you.
Thank you so much. As we conclude tonight, I just want to take a moment to make sure that we thank all of our candidates. You all truly were phenomenal in your leadership and your answers. Thank you so much for the time that I know you put into preparing for this. Please join me in a round of applause for our candidates tonight. In addition, I also want to make sure that we just spend just a few minutes thanking Jacob Keaton, and other members of SGA who I know put in a lot of work to prepare for this, and so you deserve a round of applause as well. Thank you so, so much. I also at this time want to thank all of our audience members here this evening for joining us in the 2023 presidential and vice presidential debate. Thank you all so much. Give yourselves a round of applause as well. And as a reminder, student body elections are February 27th and 28th. You may vote on Be Involved. Thank you again and have a great night.
I literally need to go home and fall apart.